For over a century, root beer has been one of the most uniquely American soft drinks. With its foamy head, spicy sweet flavor, and old-fashioned reputation, root beer holds a special place in the history of soda. And while today we often think of brands like A&W, Barq's, or Mug when we talk about root beer, there was once a time when another name stood above them all: Hires Root Beer. Known as the original commercial root beer, Hires was the drink that practically introduced the world to this distinctive soda flavor. But in modern times, you'd be hard-pressed to find a can or bottle of Hires on store shelves. So what exactly happened to Hires Root Beer? And why did one of the most iconic soft drinks in America fade into obscurity? Let's explore, right here, on History of Simple Things. The story of Hires Root Beer begins in the late 1800s with a Philadelphia pharmacist named Charles Elmer Hires. In 1876, during the Centennial Exposition in Philadelphia, Hires introduced his root tea, a blend of roots, herbs, and berries that he marketed as a healthful alternative to alcohol. At the time, the temperance movement was gaining momentum, and Americans were looking for beverages that could replace alcoholic drinks. Hires cleverly rebranded his root tea as root beer, giving it a more robust and appealing name that fit the culture of the time. This simple change transformed the drink into a sensation, and it quickly gained a following across the country. Hires Root Beer became the first root beer to be marketed nationally, setting the stage for the soda industry as we know it today. During the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Hires Root Beer was marketed as a wholesome family drink. Ads claimed it promoted health and vitality, often showcasing smiling families enjoying glasses of the foamy beverage. Hires even sold root beer extract kits, allowing families to brew the soda at home. This was a brilliant move for the time because it kept people engaged with the brand, while giving them an affordable way to make their own root beer. By the early 1900s, Hires had cemented itself as the leading root beer brand in the United States. It was deeply tied to American culture, seen at fairs, soda fountains, and eventually bottled for mass distribution. But as the soda industry grew, so did the competition. In the 1920s, Prohibition fueled the popularity of non-alcoholic beverages, and dozens of companies jumped into the root beer business. A&W, founded in 1919, began franchising root beer stands across America and quickly became a dominant player. Barq's, founded around the same time, offered a slightly different formula that set it apart from Hires. Over the decades, these newer brands gained ground by being more aggressive in their marketing and distribution strategies. Meanwhile, Hires slowly began to lose its edge. Though it remained a recognizable name, its dominance in the root beer market started to slip. By the mid-20th century, the soda landscape had changed dramatically. Coca-Cola and Pepsi were battling for supremacy, while root beer became more of a niche drink. Hires still had loyal fans, but it struggled to compete with the massive advertising budgets of the cola giants. In 1960, Crush International purchased Hires, and eventually it was acquired by the Dr. Pepper Company in the 1970s. At first, this seemed like it might breathe new life into the brand. However, being part of a larger beverage portfolio often meant that Hires was overshadowed by other more profitable products. The brand was still available, but it wasn't getting the same marketing push that it once enjoyed. Things took a sharper turn in the 1980s and 1990s. PepsiCo acquired Mug Root Beer in 1986, and Coca-Cola distributed Barq starting in the mid-1990s. Both of these brands received major corporate backing, which propelled them into grocery stores, restaurants, and vending machines nationwide. At the same time, Dr. Pepper, by then merged with Snapple and later Cadbury Schweppes, had Hires in its lineup but also owned A&W Root Beer, which had stronger brand recognition and a larger fan base. As a result, the company began putting more resources into promoting A&W, leaving Hires in the shadows. This decision was a turning point, because once advertising stopped, consumer awareness of Hires declined rapidly. By the early 2000s, Hires Root Beer had all but disappeared from mainstream markets. Production was limited, and it became nearly impossible to find outside of certain regional pockets. In Canada, Hires hung on a bit longer, especially in fountain form at select fast food chains. But even there, it was eventually replaced by Mug Root Beer as PepsiCo expanded its partnerships. Today, Hires Root Beer is considered a ghost brand. It's technically still owned by Keurig Dr. Pepper, but it hasn't been widely produced or marketed in years. For most people, the brand is a memory, something their parents or grandparents might have talked about, rather than a soda they can actually buy. So why did Hires disappear while other root beers survived? The answer comes down to corporate strategy and brand prioritization. Beverage companies don't like to have two similar products competing against each other under the same umbrella. Since A&W was stronger, more recognizable, and already associated with fast food partnerships, it made sense for Dr. Pepper Snapple to push A&W as its flagship root beer. Hires, despite its legacy as the first commercial root beer, simply couldn't compete. Without marketing support, it quietly faded into obscurity. The story of Hires Root Beer is a reminder of how quickly even a pioneering brand can vanish in a competitive industry. Being first doesn't always guarantee survival, and sometimes history favors the companies that adapt and market more aggressively. While Hires may not be on every store shelf anymore, its influence is undeniable. Without Hires, there might not have been an A&W, a Barq's, or even the root beer tradition we enjoy today. So the next time you sip a root beer float, remember that it all started with Charles Hires and his clever idea to turn root tea into root beer, a decision that gave America one of its most enduring and nostalgic sodas. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other bingeable channels. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.